5 minutes ago, the palace doors opened. The cameras were ready. The nation was watching. And then she stepped forward. Catherine. Composed. Radiant. Unreadable. But what no one expected was what followed next. Because within moments of her return to royal duty, she made a decision so final, so irreversible, that even senior palace officials were left stunned. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a turning point. The air outside Kensington Palace had been thick with anticipation long before she appeared. Reporters who had covered wars and elections found themselves whispering instead of speaking. Commentators who once speculated boldly now hesitated, as if sensing that something delicate or dangerous was unfolding behind those historic walls. For weeks, the gates had felt like a barrier between two worlds, one of growing public hunger for answers, and one of controlled royal silence. And then, without fanfare, without drawn-out ceremony, the doors parted. Her absence had not been ordinary. It had carried weight. The kind of weight that bends headlines and tests loyalties. Every missed engagement fueled another theory. Every unaddressed rumor deepened the mystery. Was she unwell? Was she reassessing her future? Was the institution itself bracing for something seismic? The longer the silence stretched, the louder the questions became. And inside the palace, pressure mounted like a tightening vice. The royal family, so often the masters of composure, had shown subtle cracks in the days leading up to her return. Appearances felt strained. Statements were carefully worded but unusually brief. Even seasoned observers noticed the tension in their cadence. There were whispers of late-night strategy sessions, sudden adjustments to schedules, security patterns shifting without explanation. It was as though an unseen script was being rewritten in real time. And then Catherine returned not cautiously, not tentatively, but with an authority that felt sharpened by absence. Her re-engagement with royal duties was announced with striking clarity. No vague timelines, no soft promises, just a firm declaration that she was back and back on her terms. The directness alone was enough to jolt the establishment. This was not the language of someone easing into the background. This was the tone of someone stepping decisively into control. But it was what followed that sent shockwaves through palace corridors. Insiders would later murmur that her first decision had already been finalized before she ever crossed that threshold. Papers signed, commitments sealed, a course set that could not be reversed. Even senior officials, individuals accustomed to managing constitutional tremors, were reportedly caught off guard by the speed and permanence of her move. This was not symbolic, it was structural. In that instant, it became clear that Catherine's return was not merely about resuming charity visits or public appearances. It signaled a deeper shift, a recalibration of influence, a subtle but unmistakable reshaping of the monarchy's internal balance. She had not simply stepped back into her role, she had altered it. And the nation felt it. Supporters hailed her resolve. Critics scrambled to interpret the implications. Allies within the institution closed ranks, while others quietly questioned what this meant for the centuries-old order they were sworn to protect. Because permanence in the monarchy is rare, and when it comes, it leaves scars as well as legacies. But to understand why this decision carries such irreversible weight, we must rewind to the months of silence that nearly fractured the royal foundation. For months, Catherine was gone. No public appearances, no statements, no glimpses from behind palace gates. The silence wasn't just noticeable, it was deafening. Speculation turned into obsession. Theories spiraled. Was it strategy? Was it crisis? Or was something far deeper unfolding behind closed doors? What the public didn't see was a storm gathering within the palace walls, one that would force a choice no future queen had ever dared to make. At first, the absence was explained away with polite reassurance. A temporary pause. A private matter. Nothing more. But as weeks stretched into months, reassurance began to sound rehearsed. The media, relentless and hungry, filled the vacuum with questions that grew sharper by the day. Headlines multiplied across continents. Commentators dissected every archived speech, every past expression, searching for hidden clues. Each canceled engagement added fuel. Each unreturned call to the palace press office intensified the frenzy. Silence, once dignified, began to look strategic. Or worse, desperate. Inside royal circles, the atmosphere was no calmer. Courtiers who had long relied on routine found themselves navigating uncertainty. Some urged patience, insisting that the monarchy had survived far greater storms. Others warned that this was different. The digital age had no tolerance for prolonged mystery. In a world of constant updates, absence breeds suspicion, and suspicion erodes trust. The divide was subtle but unmistakable. Protect her privacy at all costs, or confront the speculation head-on before it spiraled beyond control. The pressure was not abstract. It was personal. Catherine was not merely a title or a future crown. She was a mother shielding her children from a relentless spotlight. She was a wife standing beside a husband who understood, perhaps better than anyone, how cruel public curiosity could become. Every headline carried weight. Every rumor carried consequence. The burden of expectation pressed in from all sides, tradition demanding composure, modernity demanding transparency. Behind closed doors, conversations deepened. There were reports of long evenings spent in private discussion with William. Not arguments, but reckoning. What did duty truly mean in this era? How much must be given, and how much must be protected? The monarchy had always thrived on continuity, on doing what had always been done. But Catherine's absence forced an uncomfortable truth into the open. Continuity alone was no longer enough. As speculation intensified, so did the stakes. International outlets framed her silence as instability. Critics questioned whether the institution itself was faltering. Supporters pleaded for compassion, yet even their loyalty carried an undercurrent of anxiety. The palace could not hold the line forever. Something would have to shift. And quietly, almost imperceptibly at first, hints of that shift began to surface. Meetings once routine took on new urgency. Advisors were summoned who had not been consulted in years. Language in internal briefings evolved, less about damage control and more about structural change. It was as though Catherine's absence had become a crucible burning away assumptions, exposing vulnerabilities, demanding reinvention. This was no longer about returning to a calendar of engagements. It was about redefining the role itself. Those closest to the inner circle sensed it. The pause had not weakened her. It had clarified her. In the stillness, she had weighed tradition against transformation. She had measured expectation against endurance. And somewhere in that tension, a decision began to take shape, bold, permanent, and impossible to undo. The public saw only silence. But within that silence, resolve was forming. A future queen was not retreating. She was recalibrating. And when the time came to step forward again, it would not be as the same figure who had stepped back. It would be as someone prepared to redraw the boundaries of her duty. When the silence finally broke, it wasn't through whispers or leaks, it was through a single controlled moment that changed everything. It lasted less than 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds are already being replayed across the world. Catherine stepped into view, and something was different. Not just in her expression, not just in her posture. There was resolve. Steel beneath grace. And then, without hesitation, she delivered words that confirmed what only a few had suspected. This wasn't a ceremonial return. This was a declaration. For months, her absence had been interpreted as fragility, as retreat, as uncertainty. Yet in this moment, there was no trace of hesitation. She stood not as someone easing back into obligation, but as someone who had already wrestled with the storm and emerged sharpened by it. Her composure was deliberate, every syllable measured, every pause intentional. It was the kind of calm that only comes after a private battle has been fought and won. The choice of setting carried its own unspoken message. This was not an intimate gathering, nor an overly grand spectacle. It balanced continuity and quiet authority, tradition and subtle evolution. The symbolism was unmistakable to those paying attention, stability anchored in legacy, but not imprisoned by it. She was standing exactly where history expected her to stand, yet preparing to pivot history in a direction few had predicted. Beside her, William's presence spoke volumes without uttering a word. He did not overshadow. He did not lead. He stood aligned, steady, his support unmistakable but restrained. It was a partnership on display, not ornamental, not performative. There was unity there, and perhaps even admiration. Those who had speculated about tension or division were left recalibrating their narratives in real time. Whatever had been decided during those long months of silence, it had been decided together. And then came the words. Her first public commitment was delivered with unusual directness. No layered phrasing, no cautious hedging. She spoke of duty, yes, but redefined. She spoke of service, yes, but reshaped. And then, with a firmness that cut through the room, she referenced the decision that had already been formalized. Permanent. The word lingered. It did not tremble. It did not soften. It landed. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere when that permanence was acknowledged. Even those accustomed to royal statements sensed that something deeper had just occurred. This was not a temporary adjustment, not a seasonal recalibration. It was a structural move, one that would not be quietly reversed when headlines cooled. For a monarchy built on continuity, permanence is both powerful and perilous. The press, usually swift to react, hesitated. Questions seemed to stall mid-thought. The silence that followed her declaration was not confusion, it was recognition. Recognition that the story had changed, that the narrative of absence had just transformed into one of assertion. And within minutes, the outside world caught up. Online platforms ignited. Analysts dissected every phrase. Supporters flooded timelines with praise, hailing her strength and clarity. Critics scrambled to interpret the implications. Was this empowerment or disruption? Evolution or defiance? The speed of the reaction revealed just how closely the world had been watching, waiting for a sign that would confirm or contradict their suspicions. But beneath the commentary and applause, one truth became impossible to ignore. Catherine had not simply returned to her role. She had reframed it. The grace remained, but now it was edged with authority. The warmth remained, but it was fortified by resolve. The months of silence had not diminished her influence. They had distilled it. And as the world replayed those 10 seconds again and again, one question rose above the noise, urgent and unsettling. But what exactly was this permanent decision, and why did it send tremors through royal tradition? No royal bride had ever done this. No future queen had dared to rewrite the script so publicly. Yet Catherine did, and she did it without apology. Her first decision upon returning to duty wasn't symbolic. It wasn't ceremonial. It was structural, permanent, a move that shifts the balance of power within the monarchy itself. And the implications? They stretch far beyond today's headlines. For generations, the role she was born into by marriage had followed an unspoken template. Smile, support, serve, stand slightly behind, champion safe causes, preserve continuity. But Catherine's announcement tore through that template with startling precision. She did not reject duty, she redefined it. In a single calculated shift, she permanently restructured her royal portfolio, narrowing her focus but expanding her authority. What looked like subtraction was, in reality, consolidation. Certain ceremonial obligations long considered untouchable rites of passage for a future queen were relinquished, not postponed, not rotated. Relinquished. Palace aides were quick to frame it as modernization, an effort to streamline impact, but those who understood royal history recognized the deeper significance. Ceremonial presence is currency within the monarchy. To step away from it permanently is to declare independence from the expectation that visibility alone defines value. In its place, she anchored herself to a handful of key causes, elevating them from supportive patronages to central pillars of her public identity. Early childhood development, mental health advocacy, institutional reform. These were no longer side projects. They became the core of her mission, areas she would oversee personally, without dilution. This was not about attending events. It was about shaping agendas. And in doing so, she subtly shifted from participant to architect. Behind the scenes, an even bolder evolution unfolded. Catherine established a new operational model within her office, leaner, more strategic, less beholden to traditional hierarchies. Advisors were reassigned. Communication channels tightened. Decision-making accelerated. The old system, built on layers of approval and inherited protocol, was streamlined under her authority. Efficiency replaced ceremony. Impact replaced optics. It was modernization, yes, but it was also control. More quietly still, she began asserting influence in areas previously considered beyond her scope. Strategic discussions, long-term planning, policy alignment with charitable partners. This was unprecedented territory, a future queen shaping conversations before wearing the crown. Insiders whispered that her voice carried new weight in meetings where once she might have simply observed. It was not loud, it was not confrontational. It was steady and impossible to ignore. Reactions within palace corridors were mixed. Some senior courtiers, long frustrated by stagnation, viewed her move as necessary evolution, a survival tactic in an era that demands relevance. Others were rattled, not by the causes themselves, but by the audacity of permanence. The monarchy thrives on flexibility cloaked in tradition. Permanent shifts reduce maneuvering room. They signal conviction, and conviction can unsettle those who prefer gradual change. At its core, Catherine's decision challenged more than schedules or job descriptions. It challenged hierarchy. The old order relied on clear lines of deference, on roles that remained carefully contained. By expanding her influence while narrowing her ceremonial footprint, she disrupted that balance. She proved that authority need not be inherited to be exercised. It can be built, claimed, secured. To the public, it appeared confident, even empowering. A woman stepping fully into her power. But within the institution, the ramifications were still unfolding. Because when one figure redefines her role so boldly, others are forced to reconsider theirs. Influence shifts. Alliances adjust. Quiet tensions simmer beneath polished statements. And while the public saw confidence behind palace doors, the reaction was far more complicated. Inside the palace, the applause was quieter. Because permanence in the monarchy is dangerous. It shifts alliances. It redraws lines of influence. Catherine's decision didn't just define her role, it redefined everyone else's. Some saw evolution. Others saw disruption. And in whispered conversations through gilded corridors, one question lingered. Had she just secured her legacy, or ignited a silent power struggle? The speed of the announcement stunned even those who believed they understood her. Senior advisors, seasoned in crisis management and constitutional nuance, were reportedly informed only when the framework had already been finalized. There had been hints, of course, late-night consultations, revised drafts, subtle changes in internal memos, but few anticipated such decisive action. In a system built on incremental adjustment, Catherine moved with surgical precision. It wasn't reckless. It was calculated. And that calculation unsettled people who preferred predictability over boldness. At the center of it all stood William, steady and unflinching. If there were doubts, they did not show. Sources close to the inner circle suggested his support was not passive but instrumental. He had witnessed the cost of public scrutiny since childhood. He understood the weight of expectation better than most. And perhaps he recognized that this was not rebellion, but protection of their future, their family, and the crown itself. His alignment with her sent a clear signal. This was not a solo maneuver. It was a united front. Yet unity at the top does not erase unease below. Among more traditional members of the family, there was a subtle tightening of posture, a recalibration of tone. No open dissent. No dramatic confrontation. But questions surfaced in private exchanges. Was this too much? Too soon? Would permanence limit flexibility in times of political sensitivity? Tradition, after all, is not merely nostalgia. It is the scaffolding that holds the institution upright. And Catherine had just adjusted the beams. In contrast, younger royals were said to be quietly energized. To them, her decision felt like oxygen. A sign that evolution was not only possible but necessary. They had grown up in a world that demanded transparency, relevance, and purpose beyond ceremony. Catherine's shift signaled a willingness to meet that world halfway. It suggested that modern monarchy did not have to mean diluted monarchy. It could mean sharper focus, clearer identity. Still, the concern that lingered most persistently was not internal rivalry, it was perception. Public confidence is the monarchy's most fragile asset. Too rigid, and it appears outdated. too radical and it risks seeming unstable. Advisors scrambled to ensure the narrative remained one of strength rather than fracture. Strategic messaging rolled out swiftly. Carefully crafted statements emphasized continuity even as they acknowledged change. Language was chosen with microscopic care. Words like evolution replaced reform. Commitment softened permanent. Behind closed doors, long-term implications were already being mapped. How would this decision influence future succession optics? Would it create precedent for others to redefine their roles? Could permanence in one domain require adjustment elsewhere? Quiet drafts circulated. Contingency plans sketched in cautious ink. No one was panicking. But no one was complacent either. Because Catherine's move did more than reorganize responsibilities. It altered gravitational pull within the institution. Influence, once dispersed, began orbiting differently. Power rarely disappears, it shifts. And those shifts, however polite, leave marks. Yet beneath the strategy, beneath the politics and positioning, there was something else driving her. Something deeper than hierarchy or headlines. Because while the institution debated structure and stability, Catherine's decision was rooted in something far more intimate. But Catherine's decision wasn't just political, it was deeply personal. What the world saw was strength. What they didn't see was sacrifice. Catherine's permanent decision wasn't born from impulse, it was forged through months of reflection, pressure, and private struggle. This was a mother, a wife, a future queen, and a woman confronting the limits of tradition. Her return wasn't about reclaiming duty. It was about reclaiming control. During her absence, the noise never truly stopped. Headlines speculated. Comment sections dissected her silence with clinical detachment. Every rumor, no matter how baseless, carried weight because it traveled fast and far. To the public, it was intrigue. To Catherine, it was intrusion. The emotional toll was not theatrical, it was cumulative. 1,000 small cuts. Questions about her health. Questions about her marriage. Questions about her capacity. Each one demanding dignity in response, even when silence felt like surrender. Behind closed doors, conversations within her family grew deeper, more honest. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic ultimatums. Just long, careful discussions about what kind of future they wanted, not just for the monarchy, but for their children. Because beneath the crown lies childhood. Beneath the title lies vulnerability. Catherine understood that growing up in the glare of public expectation could either shape resilience or fracture it. She had witnessed that tension from close proximity. She refused to let history repeat itself unchecked. Protecting her children became more than instinct, it became strategy. The permanence of her decision was, in part, a boundary. A line drawn not against duty but against excess. She was not rejecting responsibility. She was redefining its limits. Royal duty, in her view, could no longer mean endless availability at the expense of personal stability. It had to evolve. It had to allow room for humanity within hierarchy. William's role in this transformation was steady and profound. Not as a figurehead, but as a partner. He understood the silent weight she carried because he had carried it too. Together, they dissected expectations that had gone unquestioned for decades. They asked difficult questions. What truly serves the people? What merely preserves optics? And when tradition clashes with well-being, which should prevail? These were not theoretical debates. They were personal reckoning. Through that reckoning, Catherine's independence sharpened. Not rebellion independence. A quiet authority that did not shout, but did not yield. She began to see her position not as a script to follow, but as a platform to shape. The months of absence gave her something rare within the monarchy: perspective. Space to examine where she had been accommodating and where she needed to be decisive. Space to decide that compromise in certain areas was no longer sustainable. Choosing permanence over compromise was symbolic on multiple levels. It signaled conviction. It communicated that this was not a temporary adjustment to appease critics or quiet rumors. It was a deliberate shift rooted in values. And that symbolism resonated beyond palace walls. Many saw in her decision a reflection of their own struggles, the balancing act between obligation and self-preservation, between expectation and authenticity. Yet even as empathy grew, so did curiosity. Because when a future queen redefines her boundaries so firmly, it forces a broader conversation about the institution she represents. If she can reshape her role, what else might change? If permanence can be claimed here, where else might it follow? And as the nation absorbed her choice, the world began to ask a larger question. This wasn't just about Catherine. It was about the survival of the monarchy itself. For decades, the institution has walked a fragile line between reverence and relevance. Catherine's permanent decision may have just tipped that balance toward reinvention or rupture. Allies see bold leadership. Critics see destabilization. And as global eyes turn toward Britain, one reality becomes unavoidable. The future may have arrived faster than anyone expected. The monarchy has always thrived on mystique. Distance created dignity. Silence created gravity. But the world has changed. Transparency is no longer optional, it is demanded. The public does not simply observe from afar, it scrutinizes, questions, dissects in real time. Every pause becomes suspicious. Every adjustment becomes symbolic. Catherine's decision landed in this hyper-connected landscape like a spark in dry grass. It ignited conversation far beyond palace walls. Younger generations, raised on immediacy and authenticity, have little patience for rigid tradition without explanation. They want purpose, not pageantry. Substance, not spectacle. For them, Catherine's permanence felt refreshing, a sign that the institution might finally be willing to evolve. She was not abandoning heritage. She was translating it. And in doing so, she bridged a widening gap between crown and citizen. International media quickly framed her move as a power shift. Commentators abroad debated whether this marked the beginning of a quieter revolution within the British royal structure. Was this the emergence of a new kind of queen, one who leads through strategic focus rather than ceremonial saturation? Or was it evidence that the old model was straining under modern pressure? The narrative was no longer local. It was global. Britain's monarchy, long a symbol of continuity, was now being analyzed as a case study in adaptation. The digital age has not been kind to rigid institutions. Social platforms amplify dissent as easily as praise. Missteps travel faster than corrections. Catherine understood this reality. By consolidating her role and clarifying her mission, she reduced ambiguity. Ambiguity breeds rumor. Clarity commands narrative. In many ways, her permanence was not just personal conviction, it was digital strategy. A recognition that in a world of constant commentary, decisive identity is armor, yet boldness carries risk. If her restructured role delivers measurable impact, she will be credited as a stabilizing force, the figure who modernized without dismantling. But if expectations outpace results, critics will sharpen their knives. Permanence leaves little room for retreat. There is no easy reversal if public sentiment shifts. The gamble is high because the stakes are historic. And still, within the turbulence, Catherine has emerged as something unexpected. An anchor. While others debate optics and hierarchy, she projects steadiness. Not loud, not confrontational, but unwavering. In times of uncertainty, people search for certainty. Her calm assertion of boundaries has offered that, at least for now. She has become the focal point through which many interpret the monarchy's future. But permanence is a double-edged sword. It signals confidence, the belief that this path is sustainable and right. It also signals finality, a closing of doors that once remained slightly open. For supporters, that finality is strength. For skeptics, it is rigidity. And the monarchy, ever sensitive to public mood, must now navigate the consequences of that perception. As the global conversation intensifies, one truth lingers beneath the debate. Catherine's decision has accelerated a transformation that may have been inevitable. The question is not whether change was coming. The question is whether this is the right change, at the right time, led by the right figure. Because permanence carries consequences, and some may not surface immediately. Decisions made in palaces echo for decades. Catherine's may echo for generations. Because permanence doesn't just close doors, it locks them. And when one path becomes irreversible, others disappear entirely. Supporters celebrate her courage. Critics warn of unintended fallout. But one truth remains. This is a moment historians will circle in red ink. Royal protocol has always been a living document, shaped quietly over time through custom and compromise. Catherine's choice disrupts that quiet evolution. By redefining her responsibilities in a permanent way, she has altered expectations not only for herself, but for those who follow. Future consorts may no longer inherit a rigid blueprint. They may inherit her precedent. And precedent, once set within a monarchy, becomes a silent force that reshapes behavior long after the headlines fade. Within the family itself, influence has subtly rebalanced. Power in royal circles rarely shifts dramatically. It redistributes in whispers. By consolidating her focus and authority, Catherine has created a gravitational pull around her initiatives. Attention follows impact. Impact builds leverage. And leverage, even when exercised gently, changes dynamics. Those who once commanded certain domains may now find themselves adjusting to her strengthened position. No confrontation. No declarations. Just an altered center of gravity. The media, ever sensitive to shifts in narrative, has recalibrated accordingly. Where once coverage focused on her absence, now it scrutinizes her leadership. Every public move is interpreted through the lens of permanence. Every initiative is measured as proof of whether this bold restructuring was visionary or reckless. The tone has changed. She is no longer discussed merely as a future queen in waiting, but as a strategic force shaping the institution's present. That elevation brings admiration and heightened expectation. There are deeper ripple effects as well, ones that unfold more slowly. Succession optics, long choreographed with precision, may evolve in response to her newfound clarity. If the next generation sees a model of defined boundaries and focused authority, the rhythm of royal preparation could shift. The image of continuity may blend with deliberate transformation. And in a monarchy where symbolism carries constitutional weight, such changes are never trivial. Yet permanence is heavy. It offers strength, but it removes the safety of retreat. If circumstances change, if public sentiment shifts, Catherine cannot easily step back into the broader, more flexible role she once occupied. The line has been drawn. The door closed. That burden is hers to carry. Every outcome now reflects directly on her judgment. Every success amplifies her credibility. Every misstep magnifies scrutiny. Public trust, too, is now intertwined with her success. Many have invested hope in her clarity, seeing it as proof that the monarchy can evolve without collapsing. If she delivers tangible impact, that trust will deepen. But if results falter, critics will argue that permanence was premature. The gamble is not theoretical, it is reputational, institutional, personal. Beneath the applause and analysis lies a quiet tension and awareness that history is not shaped in a single announcement, but in the aftermath that follows. The true consequences of her decision may take years to fully reveal themselves. And in that waiting, uncertainty lingers. Has she fortified the monarchy for decades to come? Or has she introduced a rigidity that future crises will test? The answers remain unwritten. The echoes are only beginning. And yet, despite the risks, Catherine appears more certain than ever. 5 minutes ago, she returned. But in truth, Catherine stepped into something far larger. Not just duty, not just leadership, but destiny. Her first decision wasn't reactive, it was visionary, and in making it permanent, she didn't simply resume her royal path. She redrew it. Whether history will call it courageous or controversial remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable: the monarchy will never be the same again. For years, she had been described as supportive, steady, the calm at William's side, a consort in waiting, a future queen defined by proximity. But permanence changes perception. In one decisive move, she shifted from participant to architect. She did not inherit authority in that moment, she exercised it. And that distinction matters, because history rarely remembers those who quietly comply. It remembers those who recalibrate the course. Her transformation did not arrive with spectacle. It emerged through restraint, through clarity, through refusal to bend indefinitely. The months of silence that once seemed like vulnerability now read as preparation. The speculation that threatened to erode her standing instead fortified it. She absorbed pressure. She endured scrutiny, and then she responded not with apology, but with structure. That is not fragility, that is strategy. William's future, too, now carries her imprint. A king does not rule alone, and the tone of a reign is often set long before the crown is placed. By asserting herself now, Catherine has shaped the rhythm of what lies ahead. Their partnership is no longer interpreted as ceremonial symmetry, it is strategic alignment. He stands not in front of her, nor does she trail behind. They move in parallel. And in that parallel lies the blueprint of a modern monarchy. Permanence within royal history is rare because it is risky. Monarchies survive through adaptation disguised as tradition. Catherine's decision strips away that disguise. It acknowledges that evolution cannot always be subtle. Sometimes it must be declared. And in declaring it, she has inscribed her intent into the institution's future. There is power in that. There is also consequence. The public response has revealed something deeper than fascination. It has revealed emotional resonance. Many see in her journey a reflection of their own battles, the courage to draw boundaries, the resolve to choose purpose over expectation. She has become more than a royal figure. She has become a symbol of resilience and reinvention. Not rebellion, not rupture, reinvention. A subtle but significant difference. Yet reinvention does not guarantee comfort. The monarchy now stands at the edge of a new era, shaped not by crisis but by conscious choice. Catherine's permanence signals that the future will not simply unfold according to inherited scripts. It will be authored. Deliberately. Boldly. And that authorship brings both opportunity and scrutiny. There is a quiet electricity in this transition, a sense that something foundational has shifted, even if the surface appears composed. The institution feels both steadier and more exposed. Steadier because clarity replaces ambiguity. Exposed because clarity invites accountability. Catherine has tethered her identity, and by extension, part of the monarchy's to measurable impact. The gamble is transparent, and so we arrive at this moment not as the end of a story but as its ignition point. A return that was never just about resuming appearances. A decision that was never just administrative. It was a declaration of intent. A signal that the next chapter will not be dictated solely by tradition but by vision. History will debate her boldness. Analysts will scrutinize her outcomes. Critics will test her resolve. But one question hums beneath it all. Urgent and unresolved. Because if her first decision back was this permanent, imagine what she's prepared to do next.